Hello guys, this is Dr. E here. I wanted to quickly talk about direct drives. So let's get to it. So we were talking about hub versus belt, and we were talking about all the different situations where you want a hub, belt. Of course, there's direct drive. It's very similar to hubs, direct drives. Basically, you have the motor sitting, but instead of the motor with a hub, the urethane is around the motor. All right, the wheel itself is the motor, whereas a direct drive is basically the same thing, but you mount the motor on the outside of the motor. So what happens is you get much better heat dissipation, which means it won't overheat as much, especially going on steep hills. One of the biggest problem with even powerful hub motors is that it will overheat when going up hills for continuously. So that will sort of solve that issue. Now, the drawback of a direct drive is sort of new. So the technology is just really sort of just there, but it's not. It's not been matured like belts and hubs. And hubs been around a lot longer. So prices are a lot higher. For the same amount of power, you're paying like twice more, or maybe like three times more. I haven't done the exact calculations, but I know it's like at least twice more for the same amount of power. Now, another drawback is that direct drives are great, but you're never going to be able to change the gearing. So if you want to gear towards very steep hills, like where I live is like 30 to 40% grade hills, then you're going to have to, you're even with those, it might overheat if you live in very steep hills. So I use very, very high gearing, like usually 4-1, all right, on my steep hills, and that really helps it out, because if you have like 2-1 or 3-1, it's okay, but you go much slower and you have to deal with heat issues. With higher gearing, you're just going to be able to make use of that torque and go much faster uphill. You won't have to worry about it. So direct drives are sort of new, but they're very expensive for amount of power you get. I think they're geared more for like, just flat ground. I think it's a lot better for. But of course, over hubs, you can put any wheels you want. So that's another good thing. And you don't have to worry about belts. So you don't have to worry about your belt breaking. That's another good thing. So there's a lot, it's very maintenance free. All right. So there's advantages to direct drive, but overall, it comes back to, if you want to get like a decent direct drive, I think, I don't know, it's at least like $700. $700, I could build a whole real powerful board with very high, you can build a real powerful mountain board with like a 12S2P for $700. The motors cost that much. So your costs are going to just skyrocket. So I think eventually I'll get a direct drive, try to test it out, but I still haven't. But it's just really about the cost. Also, you want to build something that's very cost efficient, and I'm trying to build boards that are very cost efficient. I'm always using the cheapest parts, not the cheapest, but the best parts I can afford without overspending. And I just don't see the the benefits of a direct drive, because also with direct drive your motors get super heavy. So your overall weight gets very, very heavy, and you're not going to be able to build like a real portable board. Your overall weight is going to be way bigger, way heavier. Fat boy, chubby boy, chonky boy. Then I have a new song, chonky boy, chong chonky boy, chong. That's my new song. I made the other day. So I think there's trade-offs, but if you want to like completely maintenance free, you want something like hubs, but you want the ability to change your wheels, and you just make a ton of money, like $700 is nothing to you, then go for it. Yeah. And you don't mind having a pretty heavy board, and I think it's be good. I think it's a good setup for like a longboard setup, like a real longboard. It's definitely not for portable devices, because it's just way too heavy. It's heavier than hubs. It's heavier than belts. So yeah, that's what I think about it. I think there's, like I said, if cost isn't a concern and you want it the sort of like no resistance. Also, it's like hubs. It's like hubs. It's basically hubs without actually having the urethane around the motor, but you have it on the outside. But you still have no gearing. So that's something to think about. There's also gear drive, all right, which is also basically the gears. You don't use belt. The gears drive each other. Now they get very noisy. I think Trampa boards are like that. You can get that. Gear driven could be good because they're all also enclosed, so you don't have to. If you're doing a lot of off road, that could be a very good option. So there's a lot of options, but once you go gear drive, direct drive, your costs are gonna be twice, 3 times more. It's just gonna skyrocket, and the weight is just gonna skyrocket also. So it's you want a fat boy, you want an expensive boy, then go for it. But for me, I'm just I'm trying to stay lean and mean. Belts don't really break. If you tighten them correctly, sometimes you over tighten them, then they can run out real fast, or you have it too loose. Especially on these steep hills, I've noticed like if I over tighten it, then the belts can like wear out real fast because sometimes like little pebbles or little sand can get in because I drive over sand a lot, and if your belts are too tight, that even a little bit of sand or whatever, it can cause your belt to break premature ejaculation. Or if your belt is too loose, then when you're braking downhill, you'll hear like kick, and then it'll just wear down your belt. So as long as you have your belts tightened correctly, which should be slightly looser than tight, like you should be able to sort of just push it in just a little bit. I think that's a perfect tightness. You don't want to over tighten where you can't push down you want to just a little cushion, about maybe like a millimeter movement, 1.5 millimeter movement. So yeah, as long as you have the belts on correctly, man, they're not gonna break for many miles, for a couple 100 miles at least. And probably like somebody was saying, maybe a few thousand miles. You could easily go forever. These belts can go forever. It's just how, especially going uphill, downhill, make sure you tighten them correctly. And it might be that you over tightened it, under tightened it, and that's why your belts are basically worn down or breaking. So I'm sort of a belt guy right now because I really like the belt. It's real quiet. It's easy to change out the gearing. Gearing is especially important for me because I'm always challenging myself. I have steep hills and I have off-road steep hills. Off-road steep hills, man, it's just a whole different ball game because you're not just dealing with gravel. Now you're dealing with 30% grade hill, 40% grade hills, and it's still a challenge. There's like a big hill that my Icebox skateboard can't make up. All my other boards can now make it up, but that one I'm gonna have to put I don't know, maybe bigger wheels, or I might even need a ton more power because when you're sitting down, I guess the load, the forces of the I'll have to do some touch up on my physics classes. Maybe I'll take some, see some books online. So direct drive, I think it is definitely the wave of the future. But for right now, it's too goddamn expensive. These things go down in price, all technology, over time as they're mass produced, but they're just not popular. And if you buy it now, you're just really overpaying for it. You want to buy something that's, everyone's buying right now and that's cheap, like batteries, a couple years ago, Samsung 30Q was the best deal. Now it's like moving on to 40T. Probably by next year, it's going to be the new, the Tesla, 4680 batteries, blah, blah, blah. And talking about the 4680, I think that's what it's called, the new Tesla battery. So they're going to be double the capacity, but it's going to have 5 times the motor power. So you're going to be able to build like these tiny, like 10S1P and get like hella range, hella power, That's going to be really interesting. So as soon as it's available, I'll make a 10S1P and test it out on a shortboard or a longboard and test out the range. That's going to be really fun. So a lot of things happening because electric skateboard has everything to do with all the EV technology. So, it's changing every few years. Every year it's changing. So you need to really keep up. And I think that's, the stuff that tutorials people made like 3-4 years ago, they're already obsolete because they're already basing it on 3 years ago. They're still using Samsung 30Q. So you need to, if you want to build a really good DIY electric skateboard these days, you need to keep up with technology and keep upgrading and using the best parts at the best prices, because a lot of these newer products are going to last you longer, make your electric skateboard safer, especially like the 40T batteries. They're way safer than 18650 batteries because that's what Tesla intended for. More power output. Now they have the new one, so it's going to be really interesting. I did buy some Tesla stocks. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about direct drive. I'm sorry it got kind of long, but yeah, I think I like the belts. I really like the belts. I'm just a belt guy, I just love fiddling with my board. If it breaks, I can fix it, And then the more you learn about it, it's just like you're always fixing, Not always fixing, but you get it. You can now all my boards run perfect, perfectly aligned pulleys, perfectly tightened belts. It's just like maintaining your race car. It's my race car, man. Have a great day, folks. That was Dr. E signing out.